too much of what I see of foundational Black American thought leads to and ends with slavery, as if to say there was no history that came before then. But who were you before slavery?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Afronomics podcast. And as you can see, we got another virtual episode because it's something that's real like urgent. There's a few things that we got to address. We got to get up off our chests. It's your boy Sita Dumbuya.
Why do you start off with your voice so deep, bro?
I don't know. I think like maybe so my phone died. I think it died. And then so I didn't wake up on my alarm. So they ain't been too long since I got up. Don't judge.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. Your voice ain't never been that deep.
See, grown man talking. See, you see how folks get jealous.
That's hilarious.
He ain't got no
I don't
bass
have
in
to
his
be
voice.
jealous. My voice is my voice. It is what it is. I got a
My
deep
voice
voice.
is my voice.
People get mad when their voices sound like children. It's okay, Simba. Mufasa is talking now.
Go ahead, nigga. Introduce
See,
yourself.
you said the N word on the podcast. I'm telling.
Who you gonna tell?
What's up, y'all? My name is Llewellyn. What's up? I messed up.
The cat got your tongue, man.
Let's try to.
Talking all that cash money, you can't
We
even
don't
get
even need
that.
to edit that part out because it's okay to make mistakes because it's cool. My name is Llewellyn Dixon, one of the hosts of this dope podcast, and here we are because, like Sita said, we got some stuff to talk about. Y'all been in the comments, and I like that.
Like crazy.
Keep it up. So we're gonna respond to some of the comments, and we might start doing some stuff directly responding to your comments too. But right now, we got some stuff. What's up?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Kick us off.
Okay, so we have directly been noticing uh some discrepancy, I don't know, some issues from some of our foundational Black American brothers and sisters. And we wanted to address some of the things that have been talked about. And so we want to do it. Look, we're not doing this in any kind of conflict. We ain't coming in nobody. The whole purpose of Afronomics is to promote unity. So hear everything that we are saying out of love and all of that, and we ain't trying to be shady to nobody. That's not the point. If you do have a comment or a response to something that we have that we're going to say, one, please be respectful. Two, post it. Let's hear it. We want to hear it. We don't think we are right in everything. We just want truth and we want unity. So I'm gonna just level set with that. We ain't coming out
Yeah.
the gate
We
swinging.
all we all
We
family, for real.
need to
We
take the
all
gloves
family.
off. Take the gloves off, put a plate down, let's eat and let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you know of anybody who would be a good conversation partner to have on the podcast who represents foundational Black Americans, the lineage of foundational Black Americans, because we know that it is not an organization, but a bloodline and lineage of people, or people
And
who consider themselves a part of the
African descendants of
African
slaves.
descendants of slaves. Either one of those groups, um, let us
No,
know.
American descendants of
Yeah,
slaves. Sorry.
American
Yeah.
descendants of slaves.
Sorry about that.
It's kind of early for me too. But American Descendants of Slaves or FBA groups, please let us know in the comments or DMs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Boom.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the comments.
All right. First one. Um, you talking about comments on the video. Okay, so we were talking about uh
You can tell we practiced this, right? Yeah, you can tell we rehearsed. We were very prepared.
We are prepared. Okay, so um one of the comments on it says it's a longer comment, but I'm going to skip through some of it. Foundational Black Americans are comfortable with being Americans. We are Black Americans, not Africans, and that should be respected. In the 1800s, formerly enslaved people made it clear that they did not want to return to Africa. Leaders like Frederick Douglass stated that the formerly enslaved were no longer Africans, they were Americans. Our ancestors made their choice to remain in this country, and we honor that decision. FBAs are proud descendants of American slaves, and we embrace being Americans. Our ancestors helped build this nation through their labor and sacrifice. I agree with everything that's said in that comment. I
Yeah,
don't
100%.
disagree with anything that's said in that comment. The focus that I wanted to address with that comment is you 100% have the right to say that you are American and you have no connections to Africa. I get it. You've never been there, all of that. However, my problem with that, and I'll probably say this a million times because I've done some not extensive, but I have done enough research to have this conclusion again and again, is that too much of what I see of foundational Black American thought leads to and ends with slavery, as if to say there was no history that came before then. Anytime I go back into it, it always says the descendants of slaves, the people who were brought here, and that is true, 100% true. But who were you before slavery? You were somebody before you were a slave. You were from somewhere before you were a slave. Now, whether that's the shores of Africa or the shores of South America or the shores of the what is now the US, you were something and somewhere before slavery. So you may not want to consider yourself to be African, that's fine. You want to be American, that's fine, but you came from somewhere. So where would you say that where is your genesis? And a lot of the stuff when I say you, I'm talking to foundational Black American people. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that comes into Black American culture is a mixture of uh,
Yeah,
American cultures and everything else, plus the heritage that you come from your lineage. Um,
yeah,
and
that's true.
can't be ignored. Similar, like literally saying your skin color is one of those things. If you are dark, and your people came from Africa initially, then you cannot, that's just a part of who you are. It's been and it will be a part of who you are. Your body will function better in a hot climate or area because that's who you are made to be. So nobody's taking away your American identity. Keep that. But the point is, you came from somewhere before slavery.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think like you have every right. Yeah, Black people built this country, Black Americans specifically, through slavery, even outside slavery, there are Black people were here before slavery. But I 100% understand like why you wouldn't and should not throw away all of the contributions that made America what it is today. Very much got to cling on to that, be proud of that. But to your point, like there's a lot of history outside of that, and that was part of the mentality of slave. Like a lot of people, when you really look at slavery, don't really understand that beyond just the physical bondage, a lot of it was like the mental bondage. It was like they had to make you disassociate from Africa and the African history. Like I can't remember which professor used to talk about it, but it's like
Oh,
if you
seasoning.
have, huh?
It's called seasoning.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the name of the guy that I've seen clips. But basically, one thing is like like they literally couldn't let slaves know that they were like from the Songhai Empire and stuff like that. They couldn't know where, they hailed from like the Malian Empire. They couldn't know that because how could you let somebody or you wouldn't let somebody kind of be an overseer? You wouldn't be comfortable being a slave. Like it would be a lot more, not to say the slaves are comfortable, but it would have been like a different mindset. You kind of had to break the mentality to where you only could see yourself as a slave to it helped prevent different revolts. It helped them um kind of keep control because if they only saw themselves as slaves. So it's a big part of the mental. We're seeing the remnants of that kind of control and that forcing like the seasoning you're talking about. The hell am I going out of focus for?
Because the camera don't want to focus on you.
That's wild. Come on, man. Yeah,
Okay.
that made it worse. All right, we back. Yeah, yeah. Jenny gonna have a field day with this one. Yeah. But yeah, what other comments you got?
That was my main one. The next one is about jambalaya.
Oh, okay. The all right, here's another one that I saw. It was like the diaspora war is all about jealousy. Black Americans are truly not concerned about events taking place in Africa. Some of us just relied on the lies told in books and false DNA conspiracy. We love our country and from now on gatekeep our culture from other immigrants. Now, a couple things with that. And, the first one, the diaspora war is all about jealousy. It's not really it. I mean, so when we made that video, the comments that we're talking about, or at least the one I'm pointing out, is from a video we made where, we had a at-length discussion about the diaspora wars, which we stated in the video, we don't think the diaspora wars are a real thing in real life. We think it's more so like online and something that's pushed to make us more divided. I think similar to the gender wars, a lot of this stuff is kind of manufactured, a lot of bots and all of that. But the reason we made that video was in response to the clip that we posted on TikTok with Shanasa. And we interviewed Shanasa. She's in Nigeria. We interviewed her, and she was talking about the AU6 region and how they were reaching out to try and get remittances from the diaspora, which is pretty much she was focused on, or the AU6 was focused on. Like, there's a lot of Africans that are African that live abroad and send money back individually. She was talking about the African Union has a region specifically to reach out to those people, Africans that live abroad, that were born in Africa or like first, second generation, and attract and centralize that funding so that they can do more work as opposed to just send it on an individual basis. That's what she was talking about. And we had like hundreds of FBAs in the comments talking about, oh, y'all are trying to get money from Black Americans and FBAs. And I'm sitting here, I remember responding from the account to several comments saying like, dog, she's not even talking about, she's literally talking about like Africans that
Yeah,
live abroad. Like that was the whole, and like we did the interview, so we know the context of what she was talking about. But still, hundreds of people in the comments just attacking us. So it's like you can't make these comments on these videos talking about, oh, just leave us alone and we y'all want to get it's like we weren't even discussing FBAs or anything. We were just talking about that like something that was specifically for African people.
yeah,
But they and I mean I think it's like maybe there have been situations before where they have felt attacked, so now they're kind of defensive unnecessarily. But it's like there was no need to be hostile. We weren't even talking about anything you guys were doing. So that's another thing. It's like what sometimes we're just doing things, we're having discussions, and then you come in, but make it seem like we were talking about you or attacking you, and that wasn't the case at all.
yeah. She was definitely talking about Africans supporting other African-born people supporting other African-born.
Yeah.
And even still, while you were saying that, I was thinking about who I guess who has the right to call themselves foundational Black Americans. And so that's something I would love to have somebody on the show to talk about because if it's a lineage or a bloodline, who gets to be who gets to
Yeah.
say that that's them?
So we're gonna go through a couple of definitions in a second. That will shed some light, but of course, we definitely want to have the conversation with somebody that's FBA because we don't want to speak for both sides. But then another part of the comment I just mentioned is like, from now on, we gatekeep our culture and other immigrants. And that's kind of going back to your point earlier. Our culture is so mixed in between African, like so many things that we think is African American culture or African culture, like we is from the same place. For instance, like pouring something out for your homies, like pouring alcohol for the homies, like
Libations.
yeah, libations. It's literally a thing. Like my cousin that just died, like the day he died, I'm at my auntie's house. We open a bottle. The first thing we do is go outside and pour some out for him. Like this literally it's an African tradition and like people like this it's all connected. That's one thing. And that's just one example of several.
Yeah. Like we unless you are in your indigenous land, everybody in America, and this is just not just black folks or whomever, everybody in America who's been here for however many generations, what you do in your culture is a mix of a whole lot of stuff,
Yeah.
especially white people and black people. It's just that just is what it is. And there's not black people stuff. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later with the jambalaya conversation. But nothing black people have here is 100% from Africa or 100% from Europe or 100% um, uh, from here. Nothing is. It's all a mixture of this is what we have here and this is what we do. But that's how culture in general is developed.
Yeah.
I think the point we're trying to make here is you can't, for whatever reason, I think FBAs want to completely disconnect and disassociate from all things Africa. And you literally just cannot. It doesn't make sense to do.
Yeah, like what's the name talked about what Brian talked about in the episode with Step Africa, like stepping, which is like very big in HBCUs and Black American culture, has roots in Africa. Like there's so many, you could literally name several things just where it's all the same. So trying to say we're gonna gatekeep is like is I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense.
If you want to gatekeep, then you literally have to cancel out your everything that's African about you, cancel it out, and then see what you have left.
Which is not it's not practical to do that.
It's not practical.
And it just doesn't make sense. Like you don't benefit from that. None of us do. You know what? I'm gonna just use my actual computer camera because this shit is bugging me. All right. Now I move on to oh wait, did you have any other comments? You said
Nah,
the jambalaya one was the only other one.
yeah.
Let me see, is there any other one that I wanted to discuss? Oh, this is we can discuss this one quick. This one she mentioned something similar to what we were talking about just now. Is like I sometimes wonder if certain influencers are being incentivized to amplify this so-called diaspora war as an American descendant of slaves. So she's ADOS. I can honestly say I've never personally had issues with people from the Caribbean or the African continent. That's why conversations like this are important. We need more dialogue that promotes understanding rather than division because the narrative is quickly getting out of hand. So, so not all of the comments were trying to stoke the narrative of trying to be divisive. Some people, even though she identifies as ADOS, she thinks she's kind of behaving as Pan-African and wants us to be more together. So I just wanted to point that out. That not all the net comments were like divisive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's each each side. I hate saying side because we all one.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
stop.
Everybody. So this okay, I'm about to be unnecessarily. I'm gonna digress for a second. This reminds me of when Malcolm, Martin, and the Panthers were around. Uh, and whomever, I'll even throw in Garvey because it was a little whatever, even though he wasn't around the time. But uh, we had all of these people around, and even if we want to go back to days like Du Bois and Frederick Douglass, we've had times in history where we had amazing leaders and thought people around at the same time who couldn't get on the same page. And had they got been on the same page, we would have been much stronger as a people. Uh, and they just couldn't get their ideologies together for unity in general, and it messed us up. It kept us from being able to really move forward and have and keep progress. Uh, we are. This to me. This feels like a similar version of that. It's not individual people, but it seems more like groups or ideologies who are just not seeing it together, but really could if each side was like, okay, there's truth to what you have to say, there's truth to what you have to say. I don't agree with what you have to say completely, but we can figure that out along the way. That's the main point I'm trying to make here. We can't continue to have make the same mistakes that our ancestors and former leaders did because it didn't work and it's not gonna work. All right, that's my digression. I'm done
Gotcha.
now.
Yeah. All right. So now we want to discuss some terms that kind of are relevant to this discussion. The first is Tether. What is the hell is a tether? And I've been hearing it. It's something that's used by FBAs, ADOS people a lot in reference to like black
Us.
immigrants. Yeah, pretty much. So anybody who is black in America but isn't FBA or ADOS is considered a tether. And
Every
it's
time I
a
see that word in the hold on, before you say the definition. Every time I see that word in the comments, I feel like I feel more offended by that word than I feel by being called a nigga.
well, usually like if
The
somebody
way it's
outside the
being
race calling you a
used,
nigga, it's like, all right, whatever. That's not we not on the same side. But
Beef.
it's like you know, tether is like we supposed to be the same
Yeah,
people. You over here,
like
why
nigga,
you over here
I didn't know
trying to find your virtue?
we wasn't cool. I thought we was homies.
All
Okay.
right, we got beef. What's up with that? I mean, that's crazy. But yeah, so tether is a derogatory term for black immigrants from Africa or the Caribbean. Um, is used to imply that these immigrants attach themselves to struggles and civil rights history of U.S. born black Americans while potentially undermining them. Um, it was popularized on by social media commentators and this is what I thought is sometimes linked to the movie Us by Jordan Peele, which is like the tethers are the doppelgangers are their equivalents but underground versus the real people like living above ground. But anyway, it's like basically they saying we're attaching ourselves to the work and struggles for civil rights as that the Black Americans did. And I mean, I can understand kind of that sentiment where to me it doesn't break down is that a lot of the Black Americans that were fighting were also immigrants or like descendants of immigrants. Like a lot of people don't know that Malcolm X's mom is from Grenada, so he was, you know, partially Caribbean. Stokely Carmichael, who, you know, changed his name to Kwame Ture, very big in the Black Panther Party and SNCC. He was born in Trinidad. W.E.B. Du Bois was his dad was from the Bahamas. So like a lot of these civil rights leaders were actually kind of foreign in a sense, but they didn't give a damn. They didn't look at like, oh well, we're not descendants of slaves. They saw it as we're black in America, black people in America are getting treated poorly. Let's all come together to improve situation for all of us. So that would be kind of the one thing that or the first thing I'll say is kind of where that definition doesn't make sense. Um and then the other side is like a lot of the Africans kind of we respect the situation. Like I'll tell you, my mom was of course my mom migrated here in the 80s. And she's always had respect for like civil rights leaders. I remember like when Coretta Scott King died, I was in like fifth grade. When I tell you we waited in line, even though my mom, of course, wasn't here during the civil rights, we waited in line for hours at the Capitol to go see her body. My mom wanted to pay her respects. This is somebody that grew up in a whole other country, not here during the civil rights movement, still respected the work and contributions of Black Americans to improve the situation for Black people. So, and a lot of Africans believe that. I'm sure there's a lot of them that they've had some negative experiences where they've said certain things that made people feel away. I understand that, but you know, there's still a lot of Africans, a lot of Caribbeans. I think largely the respect is there, especially in real life when you take things offline. The respect is still there. So we need to focus on that.
Yeah. And I mean, for those of us who were like born, our parents came here and we were born here. Yeah, we know of our African culture and things like that because we are attached to it because of our parents. But we grew up here as black people. We grew up
Right.
here black. So that's what we know. This is what if we were to try to go back to Africa, we'd be just as much of a perpetrator as as somebody who grew up
Yeah.
here as well. And it's the same thing. So maybe we're not children or descendants of slaves directly. And then for you and I personally, because we come from countries that were settled by freed slaves, there's definitely mixture for the two of us specifically because with there's possible. I don't know about your whole bloodline, but I know for me, we came from Barbados before Africa, and so so far as I know, I don't know how far back we did go. I don't think there are slaves so far as we know, but it's Barbados. I'm sure there was a slave somewhere in the mix.
Yeah. Yeah, same for us being, from Sierra Leone, and Freetown was named as such because it was the landing spot for a lot of free slaves, and you have a whole Creole population that doesn't have a particular tribe because they were descendants of slaves, so they don't really have direct ties to their native tribes. So there is possibility in our bloodlines that there's we're descendants of slaves, but we don't know nothing, so we're not gonna claim that history.
And
But it is possible.
yeah.
But yeah, to your point, like we grew up here, and so this is all we know. And I mean, I do get that there is some delineation, especially when you start talking about things like reparations, and we'll get into our next definition, where it's like, all right, who has the right to reparations, especially if you're not a descendant. If reparations are repairing something, so if it's reparations for chattel slavery and you're not a descendant of chattel slavery, then it makes sense to really start trying to break down and delineate because you want to see who actually is part of that, which leads into the next definitions.
Hold on,
There's going to be two. Yeah,
before
what?
you, I do have this. I'll probably ask this on another episode too, an in-person episode. This is an interesting question. Would you, as being you and your identity, accept reparations?
Accept reparations.
They offered it to you if they offered it to you as a descendant of a slave, would you accept reparations?
Hmm.
If they just said any African person living in the US or born in the US, immigrant, whatever, that's different. I'm like, okay, cool. But if they're like descendants of slaves, pull up.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm a descendant of slave. Like, if I don't know, we don't know. If it was, yeah, I don't know, because we in our bloodlines, it's possible. If I had like proof, then it'd be one thing to, because like wouldn't feel right if based on my current knowledge, not knowing whether or not I'm a descendant of the slave, like I wouldn't feel right accepting any type of reparations or funding for something that was not me. Now, our reparations could, because Sierra Leone was a British colony, if Britain was to give reparations to like Sierra Leoneans, I think that then you start having that conversation. So I don't know. I had to think about it for a little bit. What about you?
No, I wouldn't. Based on the knowledge that I know now, that I have right now, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, damn,
Yeah, yeah.
can't because my family has done pretty extensive history back to Barbados. Like I know for sure we were in Barbados before Liberia. Like there's a whole ship, the Brick Corps, all of that that the families gather together every year. The family that was on the big core from Barbados to Liberia gathers together, and there's a whole organization. So I know that that exists. But before then, so far as I know, there were farmers. Now I don't know if the farming was voluntary or what. I know niggas.
Farmer, that's a crazy way to put it. Yeah, they were
Because
farmers and blacksmiths and everything.
yeah, because that's part of why my family was able to go to Liberia on the ship because they knew how to grow certain crops. Um,
Mm.
I think one was a teacher too. So, but I don't know. As I know right now, the answer would be no. But if I was to find out that farming was involuntary, then sure.
Mm. Yeah, I think, I mean, when it comes to reparations, for one, and my brother always he brings up a few points, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I can kind of see it. Like, for one, they can't even afford it. The, the amount of like free labor that they got, they cannot foot that bill. When you account for inflation, like they can't afford reparations. Like
Okay.
the U.S.
Literally
government, they don't, the pocket's not deep enough to actually what they owe. They
they
can't
would
afford.
have to instantly, I would start with education first. They would have to instantly make it so that every school in the hood gets all of the resources that top elite private schools have, number one, and then all colleges and universities for people who deserve reparations would be free. That
Yeah,
would
yeah, and you shouldn't pay taxes.
and
Like
ta
that's start there.
and
Like no taxes.
tax,
Like that's
no
that's
tax.
an easy way to start. Like no, like African descendants of slave. Like if you're entitled to reparations, you shouldn't pay taxes. College should be free. Any business that you create shouldn't pay taxes. And if people that invest in your business should be able to get a tax incentive. That way, everybody can benefit from supporting.
We need to have a whole other
Yeah, yeah,
episode
we
about
can talk about
reparations.
how you can do it. We
This
can
is a
talk about how you
whole
can
other
do it.
episode. We need to have a whole other episode about reparations. That
Yeah,
that because that's a whole other conversation. But we need to do that and have some economists and whatnot on the line because
yeah, yeah,
that would be a good conversation.
yeah.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
inspired.
what you was about to say?
No, I said I'm inspired. That just that
Yeah,
that's a good convo. Okay.
yeah. And then another thing, so they one, they can't afford it.
What?
Two, also it's at some point, I mean, like you were saying with the school and the education, like I'm also I don't trust these people. Like I'm very aware of like they want to give you money. I'm like, like
What's the catch? What's the hook?
yeah, like what's the catch? Because like I don't know. I think we
Oh, and
better
also
off.
healthcare would be free.
Yeah, but shit, they should do that
Healthcare
for
would be
everybody.
free.
But like our education system, like the fact that they fund it, I think is a non-starter. Like we shouldn't be letting them educate us. They've proven time and time again that
They're not
they're not
capable.
trustworthy to do something. That's like one of the most foundational things to actually have like have freedom and equality. Is like you need to be able to control your mind and the minds of your youth. And if somebody else is doing that, that is a proven enemy, then you're starting behind the eight ball.
We getting off on a tangent. We
Oh
need
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Second definition. We got
we
definition.
both getting inspired by some stuff, but we need to stop.
Yeah, yeah. All right, second definition. Those two parts. So actually defining FBA. Of course, we're not FBA. I'm literally on the official FBA website, which FBA is not an organization, it is a lineage. So, foundational Black Americans are the proud descendants of the Black men and women who endured and survived one of the greatest atrocities in human history. And, we're going to talk pretty soon about how it is actually the greatest atrocity in human history, officially now. Um, but American slavery. Yeah, the greatest atrocity of human history. These resilient ancestors built the United States from the ground up, laying the foundation for the nation's economic, political, and cultural development. However, the rich history of FBA did not begin in 1619, and then it starts talking about like how there were colonizers and enslaved people prior to that, and so on and so forth. But that's what the foundation of Black American is. And then as far as the ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, is a political movement, a grassroots political movement and advocacy foundation demanding lineage-based reparations for Black Americans with ancestors enslaved in the U.S. So basically, it's trying to distinguish like Black Americans with ancestors from the U.S., even if it's just one person down your line that was a part of chattel slavery, um, versus like if all of your bloodline at some point is like from people that migrated as opposed to people who were taken in the slave trade. So those are the definitions of what those people are, just so that we're clear.
Yep.
Because I think we said in the video, I might have mentioned it was an organization when it's not, it's a lineage. There is no leader of FBA, maybe ADOS since it's a political movement. I don't know. But just wanted to make sure that we clarify that for our audience.
And if somebody wants to be in the comments again, if you know somebody who wants to come up, people who are capable of having an intelligent conversation and not just here for argument, because we're not doing that. But if somebody wants to come on and help us get some clarity, that's cool. Because again, my question is, who deserves the right to be called a foundational Black American? And if ADOS is an organization, that's a whole different thing because you decide to join the organization. But if you are a foundational Black American, how do you determine that you fit into that box, et cetera, et cetera?
Gotcha. Yeah. I think as far as the next, we should move up the UN joint
Oh yeah,
because
talk about that.
it's a little more on topic than what I had in the list next.
Yeah, because and then also because I do got to get to work too. So
Okay. Yeah. All right. One thing as I mentioned, in the past like 2 weeks on March, what was this? On March 25th, 2026. The UN General Assembly voted to designate the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved Africans and the system of racialized chattel enslavement as the gravest crime against humanity. This was something that was led by Ghana to have the UN pretty much acknowledge that the transatlantic slave trade was the worst crime in world history. 123 countries voted in favor. Three countries, the US, Israel, and Argentina, voted against it, and then 52 countries abstained, including the entire European Union. Surprise, surprise. So that is something that happened recently. As far as what that does, the implications, you could potentially use that as kind of the groundwork to start working towards financial reparations, which is pretty much why the European Union and America and Israel were not gonna say yeah. It was like for sure they because they're the perpetrators, of course. They're the ones that are gonna have to foot the bill, which, as I mentioned, they cannot afford. But of course, they're gonna vote against it for that reason or abstain in general. But that's what you could do. There was a lot of pushback on that from also from the groups we mentioned, the ADOS and FBA, saying, why is, they're trying to get these reparations and why are, African countries leading that? And no, I'll let you speak on that first.
yeah, and I'll probably have to say this again. We have this conversation with somebody else, but I can see the initial question of why are Africans leading this initiative, uh, but there's I think two reasons why this works. It should probably be done in a different way, but I do think Africans should be at the table for it. Number one, because slavery didn't just affect the people who were brought here as slaves. It also affected the countries they were taken from. Because remember, you're taking human resources from a nation. A nation cannot exist without people. And then also, if you know the whole history of how slavery was even done to begin with, a lot of the stuff I think even the president who said sorry, who did the national apology, he even said when the time was happening, they based on the history, they didn't know what they were giving them into and the full depth of what was happening on the other side of, I'm gonna use Elmina for example. They didn't know what was happening on the other side of the water when they were taken away. So there's that, and the fact that taking all of those millions of Africans over the years has drained the country. It's the reason why we have drained the countries. It's the reason why we have the issues that we have right now in Africa for so many reasons. Then on top of that, you have um, African leaders who do, because of their mindset and because of the resources that they have the ability to get on a microphone and speak. Versus, unfortunately, still in the U.S., there's not too many Black Americans um, who have both the desire and the ability to get up there and speak on behalf of Black people to ask for reparations. Because there are people who have the the ability, but they have not done so. I'm not going to say anybody's name, so I don't make nobody mad. But there are Black Americans who wield the power and the ability. They just have not done so. So the Africans who are speaking out on behalf of them, it should be done. Now, what I think should happen is both sides should sit together in a dark room and then mind their business and have a conversation to figure out how they can go present this to the world properly to demand reparations. But that's
Why dark?
a conversation. I just said dark room as in like secretive, covert.
Yeah, then I mean to your point, I think I mean it's a UN thing, so it's like United Nations. So like at the national level, whoever your delegate is or a group of delegates needs to be able to bring something forward for the UN to vote on it. The transatlantic slave trade largely influenced Black Americans' history. But as we can see, America voted against it. So like America was not finna send no representative to go bring this. Clearly, they don't even want the fact that they made it. They voted against it. So
Yep.
like I don't. There's no way that America would or Black Americans would have even had the chance to bring that vote forward. First and foremost. Second, like in regards to the history of chattel slavery, like I mean, it doesn't sound good, but like the slavery has always existed. Like every country, like across the world, has had slavery. Chattel slavery in the transatlantic slave trade was completely different from like before. Like slavery was like a kind of a term. Like it was usually like prisoners of war, or like one country conquers another one, kingdom conquers another one, and then they take over. But like you were still human as a slave. Like you could eventually get out of it. Like there was a lot of nuances to slavery. It wasn't you weren't seen as beast of burden. Chattel slavery was completely different. It was
That's why it
completely
has a
different.
whole different
Yeah,
name.
like you're literally an animal. Like the way they used to treat slave, like you were like livestock. Like it was unlike anything that ever been seen. And then like before, Africans historically, we all saw each other as different people as tribes because we were the first people and we existed in by ourselves on the planet for a very long time. We just saw all people as people. We didn't necessarily see an identity until you know centuries later, when the Europeans developed into who they became, that's when they really started creating this idea of race. And then that stuck. So it's like we didn't create the concept of race, but now that it is a thing, we need to really understand that is a thing and yeah, just be mindful of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I'm
different.
laughing because he said developed. He said they developed.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta
Um,
trying to keep it nice.
Oh yeah, yeah, keep it kosher. Oh, and then another thing, it makes sense that Ghana. So in Ghana is not, from what I've seen with the new president, Mahama, he's not perfect, but I do see him moving in line with a lot of other relatively new African leaders where they're moving away from colonial powers and being more Pan-African, which includes, Black Americans and not, trying to extend the olive branch and trying to and that historically Ghana has been like that, which is why Ghana had the year of the turn, which is why Ghana has been one of the most welcoming places for the diaspora. And when I went to Ghana, I met more Black Americans than I met Ghanaians, like in Dirty December. And then like that's from their history. Their first president, Kwame Nkrumah, who was born in Ghana, went to the U.S., went to a HBCU in the U.S., played Sigma, went back to Ghana to be president. Has always been like very Pan-African and inviting to Black Americans. So like that is not always about like them just looking out for themselves. Sometimes they do things to better the diaspora as well. So I do think that their heart was in the right place. There was some other things they did shortly after that where I was like, kind of questionable. But generally speaking, I do think that gesture was more so trying to set the foundation for all Black
Yeah,
people in diaspora to benefit, not just for Ghana to come up off of the struggles of Black people.
yeah, yeah. Agreed, agreed. What else we got to talk about?
And the last thing is just a jambalaya comment.
Oh, yeah. Jambalaya. Y'all know I like food. Talk about food all the time.
We can tell.
Love a good.
You knew that was coming. You knew it was like, come on. You walk right into it. Just keep going. We got stuff. We got places to be. Come on.
there were some folks who there were multiple comments. We'll put the screen grab on the thing and it's a scroll and you can see the people were upset because I said jambalaya is an offshoot or whatever has roots in jollof rice. Lord, it's just first of all, it's just some food. Second of all, I'm not wrong. Um, I did not say jambalaya is jollof rice because it's not. I did not say I didn't say it's American jollof rice or whatever. What I did say is that it has influences, which is absolutely true. Jambalaya is, like I said before, it is the result of dishes and things that they knew how to make from their heritage in Africa, and they came here, made a dish that they knew how to make based on what they had. And that dish, of course, was going to now be influenced by any other cultures that were around them, the French, the Americans, the Native Americans, whomever else. Um, I'll find it, but I think I saw a source that even said uh, a lot of the slaves who came from, and I could be wrong about this, and I'm a fact checker, but a lot of the slaves who came from, who landed in Louisiana came from Senegal, is what was something I read that. So that in Senegal we know comes from jollof rice, or jollof rice comes from there. That's the starting point. So my point with that, I'm not gonna beat the dead horse. I wasn't saying jambalaya comes from jollof rice. I was saying that it is, and there are influences of it from there. All right. So
Shit, I probably said it came from jollof rice, if we being honest, on the video. I think I said something like that. But I mean, that to me is splitting hairs. I mean, I think it's more so it is bigger than food. I think it's definitely like it's more so like a cultural thing, and they got offended because they're like, "Oh, well, you trying to take credit for our culture?" And it's just going back to what I said in the beginning of the video. We have like we just it's two sides of the same coin. Like it's all pretty much the same culture, just involved in different places. So like. I don't know.
and I mean, I may have oversimplified it and said that as well, but since I'll be more specific and not
Yeah, that's fair. We can clean that up. Yeah.
okay. I may have oversimplified it and said it came from it, but make it more clear influences from it because again, and this is a hill I will die on for the rest of my life. You are not black in America and have zero connection or ties to your current life.
It's impossible.
Everything that you are, black in America, all of your traditions have some way, shape, or form African influence or something in it. Maybe 50 or 100 years from now, that won't be the case, but slavery just ended 1865. Yeah, 1865. Therefore, there's influences.
It's always gonna be like that because we always gonna be the same people. So we just gonna keep passing. We gonna keep adapting the traditions to the different times and different geographies, but it's all gonna come from the same place because honestly it's just a better way of living a lot of the ways that we do things.
Facts, Loki.
So it's not gonna change. That's why everybody else be adopting our shit. Like everybody adopts it for a reason. It's just it's
It's
we
better.
find a way to do things very well, and we just adapted them over the years.
Yeah,
And like this, yeah, that's I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it.
you're well. All right, then, y'all. I think
All
that's all
right.
we got, big dog, right?
Yeah, yeah. Signing off. Appreciate y'all. Tune in on the next episode where we're gonna talk about the reparations and we're gonna figure out exactly what we need to do to get like the $2 trillion that's owed to black people worldwide. And yeah, I don't know what you're doing with your money, but I got me some slugs I've been eyeing. Trying to get me some
Honestly,
bonds.
I feel like if the U.S. was to actually pay but give like reparations for real, the U.S. would close the shop would close.
Yeah, they wouldn't do
The
that shit.
U.S. is going out of business.
They wouldn't do it.
It
Yeah,
could never happen.
definitely not.
The U.S. is going out of business immediately.
Immediately.
All
All right.
right, y'all. That's another episode of Afronomics. Y'all be cool.
Peace.